there's elements of the industry and the sector that is very reactive. It's very easy to say to a customer, I can't supply you that, I haven't got it.
Yeah.
Sorry. Or the computer says no.
Yeah.
There's also a skill set which we need to develop to say, sorry, we haven't got that product. However, this product will do exactly the same role. It has this slight variation, but it will do the same job. And I think there was and I think that varies across brands, across the industry. But we are too reactive in some cases, without a doubt. And I think that proactivity links back again to countering some of the new entrants that may enter the market by us being proactive with customers.
Chris Gibson, thanks for coming in. Thanks for joining me.
Absolute pleasure.
Yeah, I really appreciate taking the time. How would you define a brand, and what does it mean to you?
I think a brand is distinguishing the qualities of a product or a service. I think also the brand can be an individual brand as well as a person. I think the importance for a brand to me is the values, and it's the consistency of living those values. And I think that really does help define a brand and ensure that it has a length of life as well.
Yeah. And how important do you think a brand is today in the construction industry?
Probably more important than people think.
Yeah.
So I think people forget that brands are created over many, many years, and that the brand is developed through the people. So I think when people try to change or adapt brands, it has to be done in a very strategic way, but you have to bring the people with you.
Yeah.
So people in our industry obviously want that trust. And I think that the brand over a number of years creates that trust. It creates that confidence.
Yeah.
Not saying you can't create new brands, of course you can, but to do that the people just play a critical part in it. So people living the values of their brand every day, I think really demonstrates to clients, to the wider market, of what that brand's about.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think people typically now, I'll admit this is when I've spoken to people who aren't in marketing or generally involved in business day to day. You say, what's a brand to you? And it'll be, it's a logo or something like that. Now, logo is obviously important, but it's everything.
Correct.
Throughout the entire, even down to your out of office emails and how they come through, how everybody answers the phone. Do you think that attitudes, because you've been in the industry for a good amount of time, when you started, was this, I think there's a bit of a shift now. People are saying the word brand a lot more. Have you seen that? Has it been really noticeable?
Yeah, I think so. I think people are much more aware now of creating the brand that's or should be consistent. As you say, it's end to end. It's through the whole chain. And I think, again, it comes back to the people, and it comes back to getting the people to understand what the brand is trying to achieve. If you don't do that, and I mean all levels within the business, as you quite rightly say, it's from everything from a van driver in our industry. A van driver is absolutely critical. He's that interface with the customer. So if a company doesn't actually interact with the staff right the way through from all levels and gets that buy-in, then there's going to be issues.
Absolutely.
And I think there's definitely been a shift over the years to actually impart information, etc., part of that strategy to a wider people within the business. I think businesses that don't do that will have issues because people notice at different stages of the chain, as you say. Yeah. So the people to me are critical, and it's the values, it's integrity, and the integrity within business, be it personal integrity of the actual company. To me, that's just everything. And unless you're living those values on a daily basis, you'll have issues. But the staff need to know what those values are. Yeah. The staff need to buy into those values, and that then just starts to enhance the brand and improve it.
Couldn't agree more. Okay, well, let's talk about CEF, because now, as I know we spoke before we started recording, I haven't been in the industry all that long, just shy of 7 years. Probably will be 7 years at the time this goes out. And when I started, CEF were not the same company they are today. In truth, there wasn't a whole lot of noise around CEF, and you were, from my perspective, seen as like a small independent branches here and there.
Yeah.
Fulfilling orders on medium-sized projects maybe. That's been quite a change. So what's happened? What have you done to redefine yourselves?
Okay, so I've been in the industry over 30 years, which is far too long. But I've been at CEF 3 years. But I think the interesting thing for me, the CEF, before I joined, I had a different perception of CEF until I started to sort of talk to the guys and they were kind enough to offer me a position. Then you realise what the proposition's about. So you're right. Traditionally, CEF was very much seen as a high level of service. That was really important to the business as it is today, but targeting very much the SME business. So lots of branches, locations. I mean, there's over 395 locations in the UK. Always had a high number of locations, a high level of service, but targeting that SME type, contractor type business. I think the fundamental change started around about 2014.
Right.
So, and this is where the supply chain plays an absolute critical part in the brand development. So, Andy Mosley was brought on board as commercial director. Andy in 2014 started to build a category management team.
Right.
So in 2014, a lot of the major brands weren't actually dealing with CEF.
Right.
And there's various historical reasons for that. So in 2014, the journey started to create this relationship with more brands within the industry. And Andy's been absolutely critical in the development of that. And as we are today, we deal with all the major brands. So from 2014, that journey started. I think at the same time, there was a willingness to develop more vertical markets, so go away from keep supporting the traditional markets they're in, but develop new markets as well. So there was a development of a national accounts approach, which had a bit of a stop-start approach until Mark Raspberry took that on board around about 2017, 2018.
Right.
The rise in the national accounts through CEF has been phenomenal. So there's been a real desire to drive certain verticals. So national contractors, for example, in 2014, very few national contractors would have seen CEF as part of their proposition.
Exactly.
So that development has come on board. The rail market, FM market, social housing, hospitality. So we've been very specific on the vertical markets or the wider markets that we want to grow. And I think to do that, they've invested in skill sets.
Right.
They've invested in internal support, and the supply chain has played absolutely critical part of it. It's such an important part of that jigsaw.
Yeah.
The customer relationships, yes, you develop those and some existing relationships over many years, but it's that support from the other functions. And CEF's been, the family has invested in the support that's needed in the back office as well as the sort of front end of the business to support that. The other critical thing about the development has been the branch network. Right. So obviously the journey that we've taken onto the newer sectors, the new markets, the branches have had to adapt to how they service those type of accounts.
Right.
So we've been very clear, and there's been a lot of clarity and consistency in the message to all the staff. As I said, CEF is very keen to ensure that every member of staff is fully briefed and understands the strategy and the journey that we're going on.
Right.
And that happens on a regular basis, briefing at all levels within the business.
Yeah.
The other real sort of shift of the brand, I think, was the consistency of pricing.
Okay.
So the publication of a priced catalogue was a huge line in the sand. So that price catalogue now, which also is the same as the web offer and the online, a customer knows that they are going to pay a consistent price when they go into any of the 395 locations.
Yeah.
And that is an absolute a huge change. And by drawing that line in the sand and having that consistency, that gave the integrity within the business as well. That it was just a huge movement. And I think customers realised that, supply chain realised that, as well as staff did as well. The other movement is perhaps a little bit on the softer side, but it's really critical. CEF traditionally weren't part of the industry's sort of infrastructure, so the EDA,
right,
the EIC. So obviously the past president of the EDA is Chris Ashworth, who's CEO in the UK. Jamie Saunders is president of the EIC charity. So it's very much CEF. It's integrated itself within the industry and for the greater good of the industry as well.
Yeah.
and the consistency of the conversation, the consistency of the message to staff, also allows us to be very agile.
Right.
So I think one of the things that's helped develop the brand and the flexibility is how agile we are. We can pivot. So CEF's not afraid to actually try something new. Now, it may not always work, but we're agile enough and we have the flexibility. So we're trying to look forward. We're trying things that's new, but we have that we're agile to try to deal with that as well. So,
So you've a lot. There's been a lot going on.
It sounds a lot, but it's all sort of been because we've brought the staff with us.
Yeah,
I keep going on about that, but I
integral.
can't stress it enough that the staff are absolutely critical to this, and by having the values within the business and the staff having visibility of what we're trying to do as a business, what the strategy is.
There's no smoke and mirrors.
Absolutely none whatsoever, and everyone's approachable. And I think there was an atmosphere there that any member of staff can approach any member of the management team at any stage.
That's the same with us. We're obviously not the size of CEF, and we're all pretty much contained within this one building. But yeah, we're definitely taking that approach more and giving that transparency to staff. And it's a bit of a journey. And similarly, we've got a lot of agility. We'll pivot, as you say, and we'll go, right, we want to try that. Doesn't always work out, no. But having a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit isn't a bad thing. So people can get confused, but we are trying to take them along with us on the journey. There's a couple of things you've mentioned in there, but if I stick with staff for a moment, what's the level of true buy-in you've got from staff into the brand, and what's got them to really adopt it?
I think obviously working with my whole previous career in a more corporate environment, CEF's still a family business. And the legacy there of the original founder and the family is huge. And people, there is a different feeling coming into a business that is a family business, and it's exactly the same as yourselves. Yeah. And I think people buy into working for the family, supporting the family, because the family has looked after its staff as the development, and there's reward mechanisms in place, and not just the financial side of it. There's a softer sort of side to working for that type of business as well. And there's, it has to be flexibility in that work-life balance these days. And I think that's more relevant than ever.
It really is.
And I think the staff really do buy into that, to the family feel. And every 2 years there's a conference for all the staff, etc. On the back of CEF Live, and the family there are very honest. And I think probably one of the things that's really surprised me is the honesty that CEF shares with both its staff but also supply chain.
Right.
So when we do supplier events, which we do once a year, the senior management team will share information that probably other businesses may feel would be confidential. Yeah. And I think that honesty and openness is a real trait of CEF, and that will continue. Yeah.
I mean, this is again what we were talking about before we started recording. This is what the entire purpose. Obviously, there's for us as a business, it gives us exposure and gives us some content that we can put out onto social media and the like. But fundamentally, the reason we decided to do this was to have these kind of conversations and be more open and honest. And I mean, I've said it before. If we had a customer who hated us for whatever reason, hopefully there's none out there, or a contract who was fed up of our products, we've got no issue of having them on here and recording it and having that dialogue with them and trying to understand, well, where have we gone wrong and how can we fix it. So I do think the journeys are very similar, actually. But with the customers, how have they bought into the brand, and how have they taken on?
That's been an interesting journey. So I can only speak for sort of the larger customers that we've targeted and been involved with, and the support has been amazing. But it wasn't just a case of turning up and expecting the business. Far from it. There was the perception of CEF, which you quite rightly articulated earlier on. So we needed to demonstrate exactly the capabilities we've got. And again, there were a certain number of branches dealing with certain sectors that have the skill set. So it's really understanding what the customer really needs, not just a blue sky PowerPoint presentation, but really understanding what the customer needs, and then making sure we've got the right locations, because 395 locations can't do everything for everybody. So, we've put skill sets into certain locations around larger contractors, especially around rail, etc., where we've got bespoke skill sets in place. And I think all we asked for was a chance.
Yeah.
Once you get that first chance, the high level of service that has traditionally been known in the business then really just kick in.
Yes.
And this is going to sound perhaps a little bit soft and a bit soppy, but the branches that we really worked with in the early days, they didn't think they would ever deal with some of these customers.
Right.
And when they were given the opportunity, they absolutely grabbed it and loved it to death, as they still do. And that's allowed us to develop our relationships with some of the larger national customers.
Yeah.
That's now led on to us developing what we call customer fulfillment centres,
right?
Which are not branches, they're the large professional logistics warehouses that we can actually store bespoke products for projects, for bespoke markets, and the branches can utilise that space and utilise that skill set of the logistics there to service the customers. So we've launched 2 in London, in Dartford and Chesham, and the plan then is to roll those out across the country. So that's an exciting part of the jigsaw as well, for suppliers as well, because that allows us to stock product in bulk, larger products or perhaps more ugly type linear products. We can stock it in bespoke locations and then service customers nearer to the work and to the projects.
Okay, brilliant. And what's your attitude towards Supplier brand then? Is the focus, or do you associate certain brands? And I'm not trying to get a nice soundbite about Metro here, but do you associate certain brands with, we know this is what we're going to get from them?
Absolutely, and I think quality is absolutely critical on that.
Yeah.
So any customer that we deal with, as I said, the integrity of the business, integrity of CEF, by the company level and at personal levels, is absolutely critical. So we are not going to supply product that is not fit for purpose. So working with chosen suppliers, and Metro being one of them, is the quality of the products is absolutely paramount.
Yeah.
I think any customer, health and safety is, and the duty of care to their staff, and clients is the most important thing. So we have to supply product that is fit for purpose. We have to work with the supply chain that is supporting that.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely fundamental.
Do you see that as a growing trend as well? Because I have recently.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, unfortunately, when there are issues on sites, it focuses the mind even more.
Yeah.
And that's a horrible situation to be in. But I think the other thing that will change, and I'm sure we'll come on to it in more conversation, is sustainability.
Yeah.
Actually traceability of products is becoming more and more relevant, and will become even more relevant.
Yeah.
So I think that will also flush out perhaps people that are supplying equipment that isn't perhaps where it should be. So I think the times are definitely changing, without a doubt.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we, it's always been quality of product and service, but certainly product has always been the top of the agenda since 1995 when the doors opened, and that's never ever changed. Yeah. And I mean, we're going through a process now of all of our bracketry items. I saw our distance saddles yesterday with the Metro brand on, just to, not only is it make life easier for yourselves and obviously the contractor who's supplied that, Metro, but we like to treat that as, it's like, that's got the stamp of approval from us. We know that's good. You can have no problems. But of course, if there are any, of which we don't get any, talk to us and we'll sort it out.
And we have to stand behind the supply chain that does that.
Absolutely.
And that's not just CEF. I passionately believe that's the wider industry.
It is a growing thing across.
And I think the link, the EDA link, the affiliate members of the EDA, which are the manufacturers, as well as the members, which are the wholesalers, the link to organisations like the ECA and BEMA become critical. There should be there's got to be transparency in that conversation. And I know Margaret and the team at the EDA very much push that. And I think that allows us to have confidence with dealing with a professional supply chain.
Absolutely. I mean, you said earlier on that I think you said this earlier on, so forgive me if I'm misquoting, but you said that you see us working a lot closer as an industry, and I know that's a question for later on because it's been mentioned.
Yeah, no, I think absolutely. And I think the sustainability, social values aspect of that will force us as an industry, and we should as an industry work together on that.
Yeah.
Because clients are going to demand it. They're demanding it of the main contractor. Main contractors will be demanding it of the contractors, the electrical M&E contractors that we deal with at all levels. Yeah. And I think, as an industry, we have to be aware. We can't close our eyes to it. It's happening now.
Yeah.
We've had two projects now where the client is demanding, can we provide the carbon content by products?
Yeah.
Now, that's not possible at the moment for all products. However, that's the sort of demands that are coming through.
Absolutely.
And social values as well. Having that strategy is absolutely critical.
Yeah,
it has to. But I think it will bring the industry closer together. And I think people like EDA working with the ECA, etc., and other organisations can only help that.
Absolutely. I mean, we're affiliate members of the EDA, and the information that you get from even just the Zoom. The Zoom
amazing.
Calls. It's absolutely incredible, and it's so invaluable for us.
And I think, without giving a shout out to Margaret and the team, but I mean, during COVID, they were amazing. And I think it brought things a lot closer together. And I know some of the affiliate members, the manufacturers, also played a huge part in really getting a tighter knit conversation. And I think it's horrible to say, but coming out of COVID, it's probably put the industry in potentially in a stronger position.
Yeah, well, again, that's something else you were talking about, and how. I mean, I know we touched on social media and circling us back to the brand. What do you see as the big changes in that respect since COVID?
I think there's a number of things. We were talking sort of offline earlier about COVID, and it seems many years ago, but I think there's been some huge fundamental changes with the industry. I wasn't working for the first 6 months of COVID. Watching as a bit of a voyeur on LinkedIn and that of people getting furloughed and horrible times. I think a number of things. I think people's personal buying habits have changed massively.
Right.
I can't believe I'm going to admit this, but prior to COVID, I'd never used Amazon.
Still shocks me.
So I use it a lot now, but I've never used it. Now, people's personal habits change. So when they're procuring then from a business point of view, the digital offer, the web offer becomes a huge part of that multi-channel
vital
offer. Yeah. So the multi-channel offer, I think people are expecting that as a standard. The investment in that and having the correct data.
Yep.
The quality of data becomes critical to it. The visibility becomes critical to it, and the service becomes critical. So I think that has changed people's behaviours on the other side of COVID. I think it's accelerated it. I think it was happening anyway. Digitalisation was going to happen.
It was.
I think it's accelerated it.
Yeah.
I think on a downside, we've lost a lot of experience and expertise out of the industry. So people have either decided to take early retirement or have retired because they were due to. But when you look at some of the senior people within the industry that were key players, there's a lot of expertise gone out of the business.
Right.
And that leads us on to, with brands, investing in younger people and developing younger people. I mean, if there's one thing for the industry that I personally feel is probably the most important thing, it's encouraging younger people into the business.
Yeah.
A more diverse set of people as well. I mean, we are still quite a male-dominated industry.
We are.
So I think there needs to be efforts, and I know there are from a lot of companies. But I think once we attract people, because it's not the sexiest of industry, people don't sit at school knowing what's...
I've got posters of conduit tube on my wall at home.
With your hair and everything like that. Perhaps it's slightly different. But once we get people in, we have to invest in those people. We have to invest in young people. And it's the retention of staff then. And I think that will help define a brand. So, as we said, if you can encourage people to join and we can retain them and develop them and train them, I think if they understand the values of that brand, if they understand what the brand is really trying to do, what the whole strategy is, then you will retain them and they'll see the benefits of that. And we need new, fresh skill sets, without a doubt. Yeah,
and you should want. I know that there's always going to be a need to, basically I can't think of the word now, it won't come to me. When you assign a task to somebody,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to have that top-down approach, you need to do this, and people have got their functions. But having people at all levels of any company, I'm not saying make decisions, but certainly have a voice in bigger decisions is a crucial, because then when they see something come to fruition, there's that link to it, there's that emotional response to it, and they feel, because they have been a part of it.
Absolutely.
And that's really powerful.
Yeah. And I think as we go back to the COVID conversation, people were asked to act in a very responsible way.
Yeah.
And I think people, there had to be some very clear leadership around that.
Mm-hmm.
But we're obviously asking staff to act in a certain way. So again, that's probably in a strange way helps allow people to voice their concerns if there was issues, etc. And hopefully they continue to not voice concerns, but voice opportunities if they see opportunities in development, opportunities within a business, and where that business can further their opportunities, then we should be doing that.
Absolutely.
I think the other thing from the COVID scenario is I think it helped define certain brands. I think people priority was absolutely the safety of their staff and their families. Absolutely number one priority. But as time progressed, trading in a safe environment and working closely with the supply chain and the customer base helped define certain brands. And I think that was it's a horrible time, but it changed, it defined people, I think.
Yeah, I quite agree.
Or helped define people.
Yeah. Just going back to your point on educating the next generation. Now, I really hope I don't get this wrong, because that'd be incredibly embarrassing. But your electrical experts is
correct.
The CEF tagline. And I've seen a lot of things recently about. I mean, you've got a fresh series of tech talks coming up, for example. And you mentioned that there's a big impetus on training the staff, because I'm still shocked sometimes personally by people's lack of understanding around the requirements of certain standards, or even the difference in certain finishes. I know that I'm working with it all the time, constantly, and there's our products are a slither of the wider product range needed, but the difference between hot dip galv and pre-galv and where you would place those.
Yep.
So what you're doing over at CEF in the background in terms of education and feeding back into the industry that knowledge, likes of Darren Staniforth, for
absolutely,
example, is tying back into that tagline directly. So I wonder if you could just talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the tech talks have just been revolutionary. They've been amazing, and the take up from customers has been phenomenal, and supply chain. So the supply chain is obviously supporting the tech talks as well. But to have somebody like Darren's skill set, and he's a trusted source. Yeah. And again, that's trying to support the wider industry. Yes, we branded it CEF Tech Talks, so and Darren works for CEF, but by customers coming to those tech talks, understanding about changes in legislation, things that, concerns, etc., and having honest conversations, that actually benefits the wider industry
massively.
And there's no issue with that at all. And I think we should embrace that, and that's going back to linking earlier on about how manufacturers work within the EDA and other wholesalers. It is sharing across the industry there. But the training, I think. What does an electrical wholesaler look like in 5 years' time?
Good question.
What does an electrical wholesaler look like in 10 years' time?
Yep.
Oh my God. In 10 years' time, who knows?
Yeah.
Will you have the potential having risk of online suppliers coming into our market? Things like Amazon Business, for example.
Yep.
I truly believe, and this is just a personal opinion, but I truly believe one of our biggest differentiators will be our people and the skill set of the knowledge of product.
100%.
We have to be seen as that independent expert for the customer.
Yeah.
And that is how we can fight against some of these 100% online traders.
Absolutely.
And to do that, we have to train. To do that, we have to rely on people like yourselves and the supply chain to help train our people.
Absolutely.
And I think I can only speak, from what I've seen within CEF is there's a willingness there. And I think that came from years of not having access to some of the major brands, there was a willingness to learn about products, what we offer as alternatives.
Yeah.
That mindset is still there. I think that passion is still there. So now that we're dealing with all major brands, it's around about soaking up the knowledge of those products.
Yeah.
And I think that will be a major differentiator moving forward. Is the brands that have that knowledge and that skill set.
100%.
And that links to the young people again.
Yeah.
Developing young people, giving them the hunger to understand the products, having some passion about the product.
Absolutely.
And I think that's going to be huge in the next 5 years. Yeah.
Well, again, going back to that, you're electrical experts. Okay, there's the tech talks, which are fantastic, and Darren in himself is a brand, like we were saying before.
Yep.
But also, you're saying if you call CEF or contact us through whatever platform you want to, because this whole, forgive me for the buzzword, but the whole omni-channel movement that's coming through. The expectation there from the customer certainly is that whoever I speak to in whatever branch about whatever product is going to know exactly what I need to know.
And it's not just the branches, it's online as well.
Yeah.
So we actually have a team online as well. So yes, whichever route you wanted to go, whichever channel you wanted to procure the items from, there was expertise and help at the end of a phone on a counter.
Yeah.
So that link between that omni-channel link between online and bricks and clicks, whatever you want to call it. Again, we're using buzzwords.
Synergy.
I mean, it's absolutely, the branches are still absolutely critical. We're opening new branches.
Yeah.
So there's new branches opening as well as developing the online offer and other channels. But you have to have the ability as a customer to know, have the confidence that you can speak to somebody who can answer that question. And if they can't answer it, they know where to go within the business to do that.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's absolutely vital.
Yeah. Well, if we stay in that vein then, because forgive me, this isn't a question that I prepped you with, but as I said to you earlier, I had a conversation with a contractor yesterday who he was looking for one of our innovations, Easy Fit channel nuts, and he was struggling to find them from anywhere. And the conversation evolved into him venting some frustrations about the lack of proactivity from the wholesaler. Now, there's a lot of proactivity that we've just heard about from CEF, but what's your general attitude or opinion, of the wholesaler and their function?
That's a great question.
It's a bit of a landmine question, sorry.
It's a massive landmine question, but I'll give an honest answer. And again, my opinion. I think there's elements of the industry and the sector that is very reactive. It's very easy to say to a customer, I can't supply you that, I haven't got it.
Yeah.
Sorry. Or the computer says no.
Yeah.
There's also a skill set which we need to develop to say, sorry, we haven't got that product. However, this product will do exactly the same role. It has this slight variation, but it will do the same job. And I think there was and I think that varies across brands, across the industry. But we are too reactive in some cases, without a doubt. And I think that proactivity links back again to countering some of the new entrants that may enter the market by us being proactive with customers and
100%.
Giving them that option. And I think it's not just about product, it's more and more customers now are demanding solutions.
Yeah.
So it's yes, the product, but actually, can I prefabricate it off site? Can I de-risk my labour costs, because that's going to make or break the job.
Yeah.
You've got products that will reduce labour saving a huge way, and I think it's offering that solution to the customer.
Yeah.
And it's offering that solution with confidence, and the only way you get confidence is by spending the time to learn and understand it.
Absolutely.
So, that wider solution sell, I think, is becoming more relevant.
Yeah, I quite agree, and that ties me back to the social media point from before. That shift seems to have emboldened's probably the wrong word, but certainly given this voice to the end user that maybe they didn't have before. Because I'm hearing the same with brand, and the people are. I know cost is always important, but quality of product is becoming more and more paramount. But the demands of the contractor and end user on the wholesaler, that their shouts are getting louder and louder. They really are.
I think they're expecting a lot more than just delivering a box of goods.
Yeah, facilitation is no longer
and
enough.
it's everything from, again, we talk about the end-to-end chain of events of a contractor dealing with a distributor, a wholesaler. Everyone plays their part. Be it the initial order taking to the logistics. So link that back to sustainability. Have you got the product close to the site? There's going to be more relevance of dealing within local geographical areas of projects. 100%.
Yeah.
When the products are delivered, is it in a safe environment? Is it health and safety of the vehicle, etc. Right the way through to invoicing. If there is issues, which there sometimes are with invoices, how do we react? So it's not just about delivering that product, but again, by training people and investing in people, it's not just the front end branch stuff that we're talking about.
No.
It's all the back room staff that support the business.
Absolutely.
And that's not just wholesale, it goes for manufacturing as well. So, and I think that development of those people at all different levels within the business and different functions within the business becomes really critical.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I heard a very intelligent man, who John Hogan, defined a brand as effectively the promise to the customer, which I'm sure you've heard before as well. And when you break your business down into these independent functions, for example, in our warehouse, the picking and packing, and getting goods out on time and in full, that's the promise we've made when you place your order, that's what we're going to do. And you are right, having those people buy into it. I mean, they hit their target just yesterday, 99.8% pick accuracy. Bang on spot. So, sorry to the point.
But having that buy-in from those people allows you to deliver your promise.
Yeah.
It allows you to develop the brand through consistently, not just delivering the promise, exceeding it.
Exactly.
So you develop the brand, but you only do that because those guys are passionate about it. You walk around, you can see the passion in the business. You can see all the due diligence that's been done in the background to ensure that the product going out is exactly of the right standard, of the right quality, etc.
Exactly.
But we come back to that people element again.
Yeah. It's always going to be about the people every single time.
Those relationships at all different levels, be it suppliers, be it with customers, etc.
I know we've talked about social media and the younger generation. Obviously, myself included, would prefer to send an email or a message or avoid the phone call. But people do want to talk to people, and that's never going to change. They don't want to. People buy from people.
But I think you can't just say it is a relationship business. Yes, it is. Of course, it is. However, there are different formats now. And I think again, going right back to the COVID conversation, I think the use of social media has definitely developed over COVID. A lot of people were at home for a period of time on furlough. So, things like LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever, lots of things were used and people have remained on that.
Yeah.
However, you still need that personal relationship.
You do.
But you can reach people in different ways.
Exactly.
And I think there was definitely a generation change as well. But if we can develop the younger people to have the confidence to talk face to face.
Yeah.
And again, me saying that people have left the industry, we need to create the new leaders. And those new younger leaders need to develop relationships, be it the wholesaler with the trusted manufacturers, with the customers. That all links back together.
Absolutely. And then again, coming back to the core reason why we started doing this is to try and achieve that. This isn't the be-all end-all solution, obviously, but we hope that these kinds of conversations give people a bit of I hadn't thought about that. Absolutely. I need to try this, because we don't all like competition, but we do like competition at the same time. What keeps us driving forward, I suppose.
Of course it is, absolutely. And I think this format in itself, I'm not used to this format as we discussed earlier on. I certainly know a lot of friends of mine who are, and they listen to a lot of podcasts and they get their information from there. So again, it's just a new source, a new way of developing. And say, as the generations change, this is absolutely, it needs to be understood.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Well, just to wrap up then on the CEF brand, what does the future hold in terms of how you're approaching things?
I think we're always striving to do better. We're looking to understand, where we can improve. We're talking to customers, we're talking to suppliers all the time. Mm-hmm. We do it in a friendly way. Yep. And that is the style, and that's something I've picked up in 3 years, right from the senior management team right the way through the business.
Brilliant.
It's a friendly style. But no, we need to improve and we need to develop. We need to remain agile. Mm-hmm. I think the development of the online business since COVID, especially accelerated since COVID, has been phenomenal. So I think that will continue as well. We'll continue to strive to look at new markets. I think the one area that the whole industry's going to benefit from is the renewables market.
Yeah.
So there's been a large focus in developing a bespoke team, bringing expertise in. As I said earlier on, CEF's been excellent at developing these vertical markets by looking at what expertise is needed, both front end and behind the scenes. So the renewables market, I think, for the whole industry, is huge growth at the moment.
Right.
I think, obviously, having stock in the UK available for delivery is absolutely critical.
Yep.
So CEF's invested a lot of money, over £20 million of stock.
Yep.
To put that through. But yeah, we've brought the expertise in. So people like Mike Garden, Bradley Raphael, experts within that sector are building teams to support the branch network and to support the customers, and also to do the due diligence with the supply chain. So obviously especially in the solar PV and the EV market, there's a lot of suppliers. But again, going back to, we need to be supplying product that is fit for purpose.
100%.
And it's to make sure our brand is protected as well.
Yeah. Well, like I say, there's a growing voice now for demanding exactly that. I see posts daily, multiple times daily, of contractors, wholesalers, other manufacturers also, which is nice to see. Propagating the quality of the product that they use, and this is why we need to avoid this. So there's a real concerted effort, and feels like a bit more of we feel more like starting to feel more like a group now, or a team through the supply chain. Yeah, which is nice.
I think I think the sustainability element of that will help with that traceability.
Yeah,
and I think that's probably a benefit that we haven't really thought too much about. But I think the fact that we have to look at sustainable products, the way we source, etc. We're using a company, EcoVadis, to make sure we sort of we evaluate our supply chain. And we've encouraged and worked with the supply chain to do that. But that'll help that traceability, and that'll help give confidence, hopefully, to both partner customers and partners in our supply chain that we're working with the right people.
Absolutely. If they could shorten that questionnaire, though,
EcoVadis. Well, we have to do our own EcoVadis as well, so we actually go down that route ourselves as well. So that's what you'll need to take it with them.
Yeah, but no, joking aside, you're absolutely right. The same as social media, these growing voices now, and sustainability and the whole, the carbon footprint topic. Yeah, it's just it's going to happen. It's pointless trying to avoid it or put your head in the sand.
Absolutely, it's there.
Just get on with it.
There's a wider thing, the corporate social value conversation and the community. That you have to bring that back into your own business as well.
Yeah.
So lots of businesses do great works for local charities, etc. And we've also got to look after our own staff. So that community isn't just the wider customer community; it's our own community of within any business.
Yeah,
and that's not just CEF; that's any business.
Absolutely.
And, I think again that work-life balance is really important.
Yeah,
I think that element of flexibility. Again, we're linking a lot back to COVID here, which wasn't the intention, but since COVID, that the flexibility of working hours again has probably benefited and would benefit bringing new people into the industry. Yeah. So if that flexibility is there, you have people that perhaps can't work the traditional, I was going to say 9 till 5, 8 till 5 or whatever. Yeah. It will give the opportunity for people to come in and work different working patterns and working hours.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's definitely I've heard a feeling of a bit of, our industry can sometimes feel old-fashioned. But I don't know if it's that. It's mainly because you've got quite a bit of disparity between the people who are leading the industry now and the new ones coming through.
Yeah, I think there's an element of that. I think our industry can be seen as archaic.
Yeah, just a touch.
But I think it is changing.
Yeah, it is.
And I think this whole ESG policy strategy we'll all be better for it.
Yeah.
And hopefully the new leadership teams that are coming through are see things in a slightly different way as well. But it's countering, again, as I said, some of the expertise we've lost from in the industry.
Yeah.
It's balancing that out because, there's a lot of that gone out of the industry.
Yeah. I mean, we're working with, or we will be working in the future with, I think I mentioned Walsall College. We've had another couple approach us. We want product, we want to use it. We're going to go and do some talks there to the learners. So that's another way that we're trying to educate the next generation. So and hopefully beyond. yeah, like I say, this concerted effort at all levels of the supply chain is vital.
Yeah, and that wider community. I mean, CF's been great. You know, as a national sales team, everyone's been given, you know, a couple of days a year to actually invest in their local charity work and things like that, and support it. And we're not the only company doing that. I know a lot of companies do that, and a lot of our customers do that as well. And I think it's that care of the community. It's that you know, we've got a brand, CEF Cares, and it's not exactly, we don't plaster it everywhere, but it's stuff that's happening behind the scenes that we're working with, you know, local charities as well. A lot of the local branches do some good work for local, you know, requirements in the charities.
Yeah, well, it's you know, it's almost, it's not an expectation, but it almost should be. And I mean, I see stuff. I've written a few things down. You've had Carmarthen charity football match. There was a Three Peaks walk in Pembrokeshire. You put a defibrillator in at Scouts. Cannock Endpoint assessment at North Wales Charity Golf Day. You just seem to be everywhere at the minute.
No, listen, it's been Connor Dalton, who's director in charge of sustainability and ESG, he's built a team now, and again, we've invested in a team there specifically to help develop. So a lot of this stuff went on. It was just not probably brought together.
Right.
But you need that strategy, that whole strategy behind it. Yeah. And Connor's done an amazing job at pulling that strategy together. And it's actually empowered people to actually want to do more.
Yeah.
So that's social value, because people actually, it has personal connections. I know there's a couple of charities locally we've done where people have lost parents, lost family members, etc. And there's a real willingness to do that and to support it. And I think, again, without at the conference this year, the CEF conference after CEF Live, you know, the family core, the business committed to all the local charities, the ones you've named there, the money that was raised for those smaller local charities, the company has matched that again.
Right.
So they've doubled their spend now. Yeah. Okay, for a small charity that has raised £1,500, that's £3,000.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
But again, I think, you know, Connor and the team have really helped to empower people and want people to encourage people to want to do it.
Well, it buys people back in as well, because, you know, it's people can often be seen, certainly, you know, staff, for lack of a better word, staff. We tend to use colleagues, but staff. That, you know, they like you on the last working day of the month or payday, you know, normally. Yeah. But when there's that opportunity to do something for their local community, or even if it's, you know, something on a global scale, something in Peru they really want to get involved in, if they've got that opportunity that the business has facilitated for them, then you do start, because you're bringing that human element back in.
Massively. And again, we just keep closing the circle out to the staff and to the people, because without them we can't do all of this. You know, we still support, EIC's a main charity with the industry charity, obviously, and Macmillan's another one, but these local charities, it does make people feel closer.
Of course it does.
Again, it's only for 3 years for a family business, but the link to that family feel is part of that as well. So
brilliant. Yeah, a lot of good stuff going on. And I mean, I hope people watching, listening, have, you know, get something out of this part of the conversation.
Other businesses are doing it as well. So
they are.
I can only speak for what we're doing as a business, and, you know, other people in the industry do amazing work for.
Absolutely.
So again, the beauty of LinkedIn, you do see that can be shared and people see it. But
lovely. Okay, well, I think that's the brand section really well covered. But there's just a couple of final questions just to wrap up that we tend to ask everybody. So the first one would be, what would you say is the greatest opportunity right now, or 2023 into 24, for wholesalers?
I go back to that renewables market.
Right.
From a volume size. Yeah. From a volume size of business, it's the renewable market. I think obviously EV. Yeah. Go back to the mobile phone. At some stage, EV, everyone's going to have an EV car.
Yeah.
If the infrastructure's there to cope, that's a different conversation. I'm sure that's a podcast you can do with some expertise one day. I'm certainly not the expert on that. But I think the EV and solar PV, I mean, we're seeing huge growth in those sectors, as will other wholesalers. Again, needs to make sure the integrity is there on the supply chain, the traceability of the products, and working with the right suppliers. But that's a huge growth. So I think that's the immediate growth. I think the digital or offer, the web offer, will continue to grow.
Okay.
I think, as I say, people's personal habits have changed, their buying habits have changed. Companies are demanding that, so that will continue to grow as well.
Is that the biggest shift you've seen in the past few years? Is buying habits?
Yeah, I think so. Since joining CEF, the growth of the online business, and we have a 360,000 square foot warehouse at Biggleswade. All that does is supply the web.
Right.
So it's not diluted by replenishing stock. It's not a distribution centre. It is purely managing the web.
Yeah.
And I think we've got up to 42,000 products in there now.
Right.
All priced, all available, and that the way that business has grown is phenomenal. And there'll be further developments within that sector from size wise and business wise in the future.
Fantastic.
So
brilliant. And the last question, Chris, is how do you feel that manufacturers, wholesalers, contractors, facilities management companies, everybody through every level of the supply chain can work better?
I think going back to the bodies within the industry, I say that the EDA, the link to the affiliate members, i.e. the manufacturers, the link then to the ECA, I think there needs to be the work goes on there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
As an ex-president and board member, I know the hard work that goes into it. I think we need to continue to do that.
Right.
And we need to continue to support each other in that. And there needs to be some honesty around that. And I think that will encourage things like that. I think we had an event back in the summer, CEF Live. That was 105 manufacturers. We had 9,000 customers footfall through there. That was an amazing event. It was my first time there, but for 2 whole days, it was just phenomenal to see the interaction.
Yeah.
And the feedback from the supply chain was that the quality of the footfall was excellent, and people wanted to understand products.
Good.
And again, that's one last link back to COVID. I think since COVID, there's been nothing.
Yeah.
So the feedback from the supply chain was the footfall was quality. The feedback from the customer was they couldn't believe that CF had managed to get all the major players, 105 manufacturers, into one room and allowed them to interact. So I think by doing things like that, there'll be another one in 2 years, obviously. But I think I'm not saying exhibitions, but by working together and actually understanding how we get the customer to view the product, what environment is that? Is it tech talks? Is it, with technology now, is it online teams that we can do? So I think understanding how each customer wants to understand the product and digest the product. Yeah.
Well, that comes back to the omni-channel point, doesn't it? Is it one solution or is it multiple? And you prefer a webinar. Okay, fine. You like your exhibition.
100%.
So
it's all linked. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. Right. Brilliant. Well, obviously CF Live 23 is done and gone and very successful. You've got CF Live 2025 will be the next one. Yeah. And you've got a new group of or set of tech talks coming up.
Now they start next month in September.
Brilliant.
Well, tomorrow. Yeah, September the 1st tomorrow. Not sure when this is going out, but anyway, okay. So
they should be running when this goes out. But if people want to book onto them, it's
100%. They've gone on the website. They can book on there, no problem at all. Speak to your local branch, and they can arrange all the details on that. But it's an amazing event. And that's for the wider industry as well. So
brilliant.
It's for any customer.
Great. And if people want to talk to you, Chris, directly, have a chat about brand or, get any
more
ideas
than welcome. I'd reach out to me on LinkedIn or chris.gibson@cef.co.uk. Send me an email.
Lovely.
No problem at all.
Brilliant. Chris, that's been really interesting, really insightful. As we always say, we hope anybody watching, listening has got something out of it. And we'll see you on the next one. Chris, thank you very much.
No, thanks for the opportunity. Different for me.
Yeah.
Out of my comfort zone a little bit, but listen,
I'm always out of my comfort zone.
That's been great. So thank you for the invite and the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.